Sleepless night, she waits alone. She tries to forget the truth. The pain is intense, her heart is so sore and bruised. Wishing that the sadness had not come, for its claim so soon. One life is so short, so many things left to say.
Welcome back to a new episode of Rough City. It's a very special Thanksgiving holiday episode, and I am joining the world-class and greatest upright bass player I've ever shared the stage with. I'm not just saying that because he's my dad, Mr. Bryan McConnell. Hello.
Thanks. Appreciate that, son.
Absolutely. And we're going to chat here for a little bit about all of your experience traveling around the world to play music, playing with some legendary jazz musicians and all kinds of genres. We could sit here and talk for about 37 years worth of life experience of mine, but we're not going to waste all that time. I will say this though, starting out, some of my first real stage experience was thankfully from both my parents, who were jazz musicians and at the time jazz musicians. But I remember the first time when I was visiting you, I was 16 years old. And at the time you had gone into business with your music partner, Don Pender. He had opened a jazz club in San Francisco, Storyville. And you were the house bass player. I was visiting from Florida, and I was basically talked into staying. Just like, hey, what are you really going to do in Florida with your music? It's only going to go so far. You should really be here. And I was given an opportunity. I do remember the first time I was able to jump up on stage at Storyville. And I thought everything was going great. I'm having a blast. I think it was packed because it was some wedding that was there. And we're playing, and the song was over. I'm just thrilled. I'm like, man, I'm 16 years old playing at a jazz club. This is great. And then you bent down to take a sip of water behind your bass and looked at me, and I'm just like, hey, Dad, is this fun or what? And you looked and smiled, grinding your teeth, going, you're making me work my ass off.
Yeah, that's about right. Small correction. You were like 15 because you turned 16 while you were there that year. So you started when you were 15. And you were just all over the place on the drums. It was creative, but it wasn't about the groove yet.
There you go. Thank you. That's salvaged my spirits a little, but it was basically, I think I was putting so much energy into it, probably overdoing it, like you said. And it was probably, for you, it must have been like the feeling of, the rest of the musicians on stage looking at you like, what are you really, man? And you're probably like, look, we'll just break them down and rebuild them. We have the technology.
No,
while I
was working my ass off is because it was still happening, but I was having to make it happen in spite of it. So it wasn't as noticeable to everybody else.
Well, you did have the technology, could rebuild me. I wasn't quite the $6 million man, but I was the can I have a dollar kid.
About $350.
But you did. I think that did happen with a lot of work, a lot of practice, and a hell of a lot of listening.
Well, also I took most of the drums away from you, if you recall.
That is true. Very interesting technique.
Yeah, you had snare drum, hi-hat, and a rod cymbal.
Right. So basically, I had gotten to the point where I was allowed to be the water boy for the club.
Well, you were sort of the stagehand.
Stagehand, helper. I would get the sheet music set up for everybody and the stage set up. Don Pender's 50 horns. Being 16 years old, it was a big thrill for me. And I remember there were some real legends that came through there that you got to play with as the house band. And one of them, I remember the experience, Tootie Heath.
No, I wasn't with Tootie. I wasn't on that one. That was after a year or so, and other bands were coming in as well.
Oh,
you were there still doing the thing.
Yeah, I was made to get him all ready. And I remember Don coming up to me and explaining, like, look, this guy's a legend. You just make sure he gets anything and everything.
Yeah.
Well, I remember going up to the dressing room and say, "Hey, Mr. Heath, is there anything I could get you?" And he looked at me, he's like, "Can you give me some blow?" I'm just like, I didn't know what to say. I'm 16.
Oh,
Sorry, sir.
I'm sure he was just kidding.
All right.
No, I
Well, I did.
did get a chance to play with Tootie at Stanford with uh, Eddie Harris, who was a very, very famous saxophone player, and Smith Dobson Sr. And all those guys. Well, Tootie's still around, but Smith and Eddie are gone, like so many of the people I play with.
Well, that was definitely an experience for me. I felt like I was in dreamland. It was tough to get up and go to school the next morning when the previous night I was like listening to, jazz all stars and meeting movie stars and shit. I met Alicia Silverstone. I mean, the place was just a great environment. And you guys did allow me eventually the opportunity to close. The third set of the night would be a cocktail set. We moved from the back.
No, more like the sixth set. We were 4 hours in the back room and 4 hours in the front.
Right. Okay. Like the closing set of the night. And you only let me use a snare drum and a hi-hat at first.
All right. That's what I was
saying.
And
and brushes.
Earlier.
Yeah.
And
I
think I let you have a ride cymbal.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually you would let another piece come in, and I'm like, this is torture. This is cruel. But it was serious Jedi training, like to know how to chill, be simple, and listen. And then by the time I got back to the kit, you would think I'd just be everywhere, but I wasn't. I was so well contained, and I understood. I started understanding.
Well, do you remember when I said, "Well, why don't you mix it up a little bit?" And you looked at me and said, "Well, you told me to just 4 on the ride and 2 and 4 on the
But
sock."
you said quarter notes.
I said, yeah, but you got to remember to get back to that. You can do other things.
So there you go.
Got to get
there
back.
You go.
The groove has to maintain no matter what you're doing.
Exactly. So, like I said, you broke me down completely to being afraid to even do a fill, and then you were like, okay, now.
Yeah, you got a platform. Now you got a platform to go from.
Heck yeah. So I was certainly, lucky isn't even the word. It was an amazing, I feel like I had a whole other musical life in my life before I got on stage in metal. I got to experience this real shit. So.
In fact, I've got a video of us on Saturday morning. No, not Saturday morning, just some weekday morning news with Mitchell Stein.
That's right.
And that was your 16th birthday. In fact,
wow.
You were turning. That's what I was saying. You were 15 when we were out there that time. There was other times, and you turned 16 on that day, and that's another story in itself.
Oh my God, that's not a long story. That's just one of the several stories where I made you mad. For a teenager, I actually had it pretty good. You weren't that strict. You gave me a lot of freedom. In fact, you had one rule that was a pretty good one. You said, I don't care how late you're out with your friends, but as long as you call me at midnight to tell me where you are. You could be out till sunrise, which I didn't do often. I was pretty good, but if that happened,
well, that's because your friends didn't have the same privileges. They had to go home.
Or none of us were cool. But yeah, for some reason, I chose to fuck this all up. The one time I just didn't call, it totally ignored you. And it was a night where we had a TV morning appearance on a morning show.
I had to be there at 6.
And you had no idea where I was. And I think I rolled up at 5:49 at home, and we still had to get packed and get dressed. And I looked horrible, played horrible on TV, but we got through it.
No, it wasn't too bad. It was just, you had to wear one of my shirts. And I got to pull that video out and look at it because I don't think I look so good either. That's pretty much when I used to go to sleep at 6 a.m., much less get up.
Plus, I had you a nervous wreck. We looked like we traded clothes for some odd reason. Like
a stupid movie or something.
Boy, that was funny.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how about this? Can we? No, it was not. All right. Let's flash back a little bit in time because, I learned everything I know musically, about music from you and my mom. But let's just give us some backstory on when did you first start taking music seriously, or what was, when did you start
my first musical instrument was an old guitar that my older brother threw away, an electric guitar, like a Sears and Roebuck or some kind of Kmart special. And they only had 2 or 3 strings on it, I think. And I was 5, 6, somewhere around there. And eventually I got strings for it. And I don't, that's a long time ago. So I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I eventually started knocking on my brother Mark's door to see if so he could teach me something. And eventually he let me in and teach me some chord progressions. And if I dropped the beat, he'd throw me out. He said, come back when you can play it in time. So that's where I learned how important playing time is. And so eventually he realized, hey, I can play my lead while he plays the changes. So it was good that it helped me play rhythm and let him practice on the solos. And then after that, by the fifth grade, I started playing cello. And my older brother Matt was playing violin, so I wanted to do something different, so I picked cello. And by the 7th grade, I was playing bass, cello, viola, and violin within the orchestras in the schools. The junior high school was right next to the high school, so I was able to go back and forth from those 2 different orchestras playing different instruments. It's about the only thing that I really made any progress in school was music. It's pretty saved my life more than once. And
sure,
then
that's the easy A.
Sorry, pardon?
Sure, that's the easy A, right?
Well, it was also something that I enjoyed doing. After the 7th grade, things kind of went sideways for various reasons. But then after that, I finally went back to school and started playing bass again, upright bass, of course. And before
And
huh?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, before we moved from Virginia, was in Roanoke, Virginia. I was principal bassist of the All City Orchestra and principal bassist of the All State Orchestra at like 14. And in fact, I'd done 2 paid gigs when I was like 12 and 13. Christmas, the Messiah or something, and singing Christmas Tree. And I got paid for it. So technically, I've been a professional since then. But of course, yeah. So by the time I got to high school and graduated, I'd gotten a scholarship at Florida Junior College, playing bass, and that's kind of where I just stuck with it and actually dropped out again, went back to school, had a family. You came along and messed everything up.
And still doing that.
No.
Okay, so is that about when did Gosa enter the picture?
Dale Gosa, 1979. When I got my scholarship, got my first private teacher, and that turned a lot of things around for me. In fact, he did a lot of, he loaned me a bass for a year when I was out on the road, gave me a bow, still have that bow and still use it. And it's a lot of time, like 42 years ago, 41 years ago. But
you still hang out in contact with your old teacher.
Yeah, he comes up here to visit us a couple times a year, and in fact, I stayed with him down in Jacksonville, Florida. Last time I was there, stayed overnight. So we're close, still very close.
He must be proud. I'm sure you sent him a lot of stuff in the mail, probably.
Yeah,
albums he made.
Yeah, I've run across some recordings I forgot about that I'd sent him over the years. So it's pretty cool.
Heck yeah.
He's not playing anymore, not professionally anyway. But he's also the person that fixed my bass and sold me my bass in 1987, I think. So yeah, nice. That's pretty much it. And since then, fast forward to San Francisco, I played the Mayport Jazz Festival. We played after Phil Woods and before Buddy Rich Band we were on.
Wow.
With Della Reese. She's a singer. She was also an actor, I think. She did like some TV show. Della Reese did the Eddie Murphy movie, The Cotton Club. Remember, she was the one that knocked him across the alley. He was pretty badass. Anyway.
No, that's not the one. He shoots her baby toe off.
Yeah, that's her. It's Della.
No, that's Harlem Nights.
Oh, Harlem Nights. That's right. They were, that's right.
He shoots off her pinky toe.
She beats the hell out of him.
Dude, my favorite line in that is when him and Richard Pryor standing there and some guy's like threatening Eddie Murphy, and Eddie Murphy goes, the last person who hit me was in, 1952. And then Richard Pryor goes, "Oh, yeah, that's the doctor, right? That slapped you on the ass when you were born." And he goes, Eddie Murphy goes, "Yeah." And I'm still looking for him.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. All right, let's get back to me ruining everything. Because I can see there is one story
ruining
that's
everything.
circulating.
What do you mean?
Yeah, when I came along, and you're in your groove, and you ended up in the orchestra pit.
It's actually when I got to California.
Right. And what were you exactly practicing? And
Oh,
you can tell a story if you want.
No, I remember what you're talking about when I was at university.
Okay.
Your mother was at basic training or MIT or something, and you and I were alone, and I was at the University of Oklahoma, and I had a jury. And a jury, if anybody knows, a jury is when you go to, it's like your final on your instrument. You go in and play for the whole music faculty, prepare music, and you get that's how you get your grade for your performance. So anyway, I was doing this duet thing with Darren, my stand partner in the orchestra, and it's Giovanni Bottesini piece. It's like really difficult up in the high register a lot, and we're talking treble clefs. Most of the stuff is for basses, a lot very high up. And you were like 3, barely like 2.5.
And you always took me.
Yeah, you took you to the rehearsals with the orchestra, and they helped me corral you in to keep you from crawling out the door. Right. And but anyway, this jury was more. I didn't have anybody to help me particularly, so we bring you in, put you on a like a quilt.
And didn't you say that they would? Sorry, didn't you say like sometimes I'd try to crawl out of the room, and then
that was during your
third chair violinists would have their bows like slapping my diaper to get me back.
Yeah, that was the orchestra rehearsals, but this was right. Didn't have as much help there at the jury. So we're in this room, and
so you're doing the actual test.
We're doing the actual performance for our grade. And we'd practiced in front of you, crawling all over the apartment and stuff. So we were used to, and even you crying sometimes. Yeah. But you had a banky or binky or whatever.
A blank. Yeah, my blanky.
And I forgot the blanky, and all of a sudden, you're like looking around through your toys and stuff for your blanket.
And you could see it. You could see
I saw it go. He's gonna blow.
He's gonna blow. He can't find the blanket.
So I'm in the stratosphere playing, just we're playing the shit out of this piece, and
I hit that high C.
Oh, it was you screaming like a banshee, and but we just kept on playing, and
like you didn't even flinch.
And we and then my bass teacher John Williams got up, grabbed you, and ran out the room. So he got you calmed down, and we finished the.
That's hilarious.
And we got, of course, we got A's for our performance as well as our concentration level.
That's amazing. Good job. And wait a minute, did you just say the conductor's name was John Williams?
No, my bass teacher.
Oh, I was going to say this is getting out of hand.
There's a lot of John Williamses out there. There's a famous John Williams upright player in California. Played with Nancy Wilson for years.
I do believe there's a John Williams. Famous classical guitarist too. Anyway.
Yep.
All right, so that's funny. So you took, I do know this. You took the pit or the orchestral stuff very seriously because.
Oh yeah, it's.
I remember at one point me showing you this symphonic Led Zeppelin, symphonic
Dark
Pink
Side
Floyd.
of the Moon.
Yeah, they're incredible by the composer Chazz Coleman, and they're really good arrangements.
Oh yeah.
I remember showing them to you and just like, have you ever heard anything like it? And you kind of were like, huh. And then threw on these vinyls of like Brahms's, Brahms's third, the fourth movement, and it's like, dude, okay, I could see where all this shit came from.
Yeah, you were hooked after that.
All right, so how about teaching?
Wow,
there was something I do another interesting story I remember you telling me when I was around 16ish about how because you were at this point. When I was around 16, we're living in Monterey. You were a well-established bass player for a lot of jazz groups in the area. So you did have a lot of students or people that wanted to come up, young guys that were like, "Hey, I want to learn what you do." This is what kind of how you told me, I think, or I'll probably butcher the story, but they wanted to know how to do improv bass. But you would go, "Cool, here's a lesson. Come in tomorrow," and you'd sit them down with Beethoven sheet music and a bow. and they give you the attitude like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is
They
this?
wanted,
Like,
yeah, they wanted to run before they crawled, much less walked. But
you were all about
well,
discipline.
Monterey started that. I played with the orchestra there for a little while, but didn't pay well enough. So I started gigging around town, and eventually started playing with John Handy, Charles Mingus alumni, and his own band in his own right. He did the 1960. Mingus did the '65 Monterey Festival, and John did it with his band in '66. So my point is, John's a band leader as well as an alumni. I still speak with John once in a while. He's up there now. He's not playing anymore either. But I got to play the Monterey Jazz Festival on the main stage the first time I played there, because one of the acts canceled at the last minute, and John's band was brought in, and I think that was 88.
wow.
And then I lived in Japan for a year and worked and gigged over there. But I don't know. As far as teaching, I've been teaching since I learned one thing. I'd show it to somebody, because first of all, I thought everybody should be interested in it because I was crazy about it. But I mean, with my first instrument being guitar, I learned to play without music some, and learning to read music, of course, opened another whole universe. And all I really wanted to do was play, and wasn't really concerned about becoming famous and a rock star, if you will. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm all over the place here now. So, Monterey,
yeah,
I
still
taught
teaching.
Yeah, I was teaching, and basically teaching them how to play the instrument, not any particular kind of music. Because if you can, if you don't know how to play your instrument, or if you learn to play the instrument correctly, or at least just say in tune, because it doesn't have frets on it, then you can play anything you want after that.
Would you say that maybe it sort of possibly weeded out who was actually serious and who wanted to learn by, if they wouldn't show up the next day or something?
Well, that happens very often, because they think that you're going to lay hands on them and suddenly they're going to be able to play. It just doesn't work that way.
Right. It's got to be at home. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that a phrase. While I was visiting Dad here, he did remind me something that I said, which really sounds like me in my old band, my old metal band. I guess I called him up and I said, Dad, it happened. I became you at rehearsal, repeating shit. And because there's so many one-liners, I think, that I've learned from you that I ended up repeating to my fellow musicians throughout my groups. And one of them being practice at home, you rehearse at rehearsal. In other words, motherfucker, if you don't know the song at rehearsal, what are you doing at home on your spare time? You ain't listening. You ain't practicing. So
well, that's right, because it just wastes time.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to fucking sit here and teach you the song while we're all trying to play it together. And
right.
That's not good. You practice at home, rehearsal, and all that shit.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah, John Handy. I do remember the first time you introduced me to John Handy, and it was some outdoor festival.
It was the first Jazz on the Hill in I think it's Burlington or San Mateo. I think it is. Your California listeners will know where it is. They'll remember. But it was the first. I played that festival twice. The first inaugural was with John Handy, and the next time I played was with Bobby Hutcherson.
Wow, yeah.
But when you met John, I think you were like 5.
I was 5, but I can tell you this much. I remember this. I do have this in my memory, and I do know this much. You could even tell me at 5 years old, he played with Charlie Mingus, and I was like, oh, because my favorite Charles Mingus song since I was like 3 was "Fables to Fathers."
Yeah,
I remember the record when he had he's a clown or something, right?
No, that's Mingus the Clown. I just had so many records you can borrow those.
I was just looking at the records, yeah. But that's all you had to say. So it was like I got the importance, and I went up and met John Handy, and he's like, "Hey, this is my son Charlie," and I'm shaking his hand, and then I walked back over to you, and you're like, "What?" I was like, "He gave me $5." Why did he give me $5 for?
That's what older people do.
That's exactly what you said. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's just what older people do. That's no further than that.
Well,
but
you went home. You were visiting that time. You went back to Panama City, and I was on the phone with you, and you said, "Dad, I told everybody I met John Handy." I mean, you're 5.
Yeah,
I'm like, Chazz, they don't know who John
no,
Handy is, and you said, "Well, I
every,
do."
everyone had the same reaction too as kids. I met John Handy. Really? That guy from Uncle Buck? No, that's John Candy. Everyone's
I don't
all
know that.
excited for him. But no, I was actually able to play with John Handy once sitting in, and that was a thrill,
Yep.
as well as play in front of him. He was in the audience at Storyville when I got to sit in with you and John Davis for the tribute to Jocko thing. One night I got
Oh
to sit in. It
yeah.
was an amazing night for me, and he
Did you
was.
play the whole night?
I played the whole gig, all
Yeah.
3 or 4 sets that night. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was huge.
I forgot
But
about that.
yeah, that was a big deal. I think I was 16, so that was the lottery for me. I
Yeah.
think
You played
that
with
was
a
a big.
lot of the guest artists after a while.
Yeah, I finally got to the point where I could pretty much fake what Brian Melvin, my drum teacher, the house drummer at Storyville, was doing. I could
There
ripped off three
wasn't no faking going
plays,
on. You just had to work hard.
right? But okay, so
Oh,
yeah, so
you
you played.
remember Chevy?
Yes, God, what was his real name?
Raymond, I think.
Oh my God, that guy is a conversation piece. That guy, he called him Chevy because he
He fell down
flopped.
every time he walked in a room.
He fell all over the place.
He was like, what do you call it? Frodo falling. You call him Frodo
Just
now.
Frodo Baggins, just a professional faller. Oh my God.
Yeah, he was a trip.
All right. So how about let's see, touring Japan? That must have been
Ah,
amazing. You toured with John Handy's group, right?
right. Well, the first time I went as a freelance and worked for this in this club for 3 months. Ended up staying a year and playing with different Japanese musicians. But I've toured there twice with John Handy and once with Dottie Dodgen. And they love jazz. They really do. And this was years ago. Man, we're talking 20 years ago now. Japan has changed a lot since I stayed there and toured there. But it was pretty cool. The biggest problem was when you get there, you're in a different day and you got to
Mm-hmm.
perform. So jet lag is more like dateline lag. Pretty
Crazy
tough.
about
But
jazz, though.
well, yeah, but jazz is still not as big as pop music there.
Right. Well,
It's
never.
and they like more traditional jazz, or at least then. I can't speak for now. They like more traditional jazz than the fusion stuff. Because some of the stuff we did with John was raga, which is like
Right.
Indian music, uh, you know, from India music, and they didn't want to hear no parts of that. They wanted to hear Duke Ellington and the blues and all kinds of things.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you met some
So,
interesting people there. I remember one story of somebody who caught your performance that
oh
liked
yeah,
you.
Osafane-san. He was pretty good.
Osafane-san.
Osafane, but you say san, it's like
Oh,
a sir. Osafane.
ah, okay.
Osafane-san. He was, yeah, he was connected to the Yakuza. Apparently, I think his father was not way
Damn.
up, but he was a made guy, I think, as they call it. He was real nice. He took us out and bought us dinner and shared some other treats with us.
Nice.
And
I do remember one story. You said that you were at a table and, and you were eating with chopsticks, and you stuck your chopsticks in the rice with the chopsticks very slightly pointing at him.
actually, I don't remember that.
And
I remember being told don't do that. I don't know
yeah,
if I was right at him or not.
they're like, okay, well, they said
It's
get the chopsticks out of it because it was sort of, what is that supposed to mean when you're
it's just
pointing?
bad luck. If you just stick them in your rice at all, that means bad luck. It's a superstition, but they're serious about it.
Right.
But
So touring
but
Japan, that's pretty awesome.
yeah, but the same guy was eating. He's looking at me and he says he's having a translator because he didn't speak any English at all, and I spoke very little Japanese. And he asked where I got the scar on my face, and I told him, and he thought that was really good because it happened. I don't want to go get into that part of it, the details too much, but it happened. It was a frontal attack, and I didn't run. Let's put it that way. And
Ah, so he
he was
found.
he was impressed the scar was not on my back or my neck as I was running. So
yeah, if you're hanging out with
samurai kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
All right, shit. Well, how about some other famous people we worked with? I can think of
Phil Woods.
Tell that story.
Well, I was playing playing with Bobby Hutchin, and in all fairness, Jeff Chambers, a bassist in San Francisco, was pretty much Bobby's first call when Jeff was available. But Jeff had broken his arm, so I was next in line with second chair in that band. It's nothing to sneeze at. So, and it turns out that Phil was coming out, and they're going to do a duo concert. We did Kimball's East, and we did 3 days with 2 nights and a matinee on Sunday. And it was just, I got some PA type recordings of some of that. It's just, these guys were just incredible. And everybody on that stage that night are gone except for me. Wow. And, and Smith wasn't that old when he passed. He got killed in a car accident. But everybody else died from some disease or something.
Yeah, I remember Smith.
You remember Smith? Yeah.
Him, I think, once.
Huh?
Was I able to play with him at all, or was I still too young?
I think you might have. I think you did sit in it. What was that place? Garden City.
Yes, that was it. That was it, dude.
Yeah.
I remember that night because it was a big deal, because I remember knowing Smith since I was a little kid, literally just playing like basketball out in his
while we were rehearsing. Yeah.
So he knew me, and then going back and forth from Florida, it's not like I grew up around there or anything, but suddenly having come back with my Storyville experience, and you didn't warn him, you're just like, hey, Chazz is going to sit in. And it's always that head tilt. I sort of get the look of guys that haven't played with me before going, oh, Jesus, here we go. Letting this kid, okay, like a stage dad. But then I play, and the connection I had with Smith that night was wonderful. I remember even playing fucking Green Dolphin Street, because it's usually just a go-to. One of the 2 biggest go-tos in a jam session is going to be Green Dolphin Street. But still, the connection that he could relax and smile and go, holy shit, Charlie. And I
remember that.
That was great.
Yeah, it was. I miss him.
Elton John. You met Elton. We both met Elton John at different times.
Elton John?
Elton John. Did I? Oh.
You better edit that one out there. A little Freudian slip there, buddy.
No, I can't read my own handwriting. I wrote Elton.
Elvin Jones. That's so far removed.
No, but they pretty much both wore the same tuxedos.
No. You can't even put those in the same universe, much less the same sentence.
You went Elton John. You better edit that out.
Edit that shit out, buddy.
All right. Elvin Jones.
John.
We both met Elvin Jones different times.
Well, I got to play a whole set with Elvin Jones in the audience.
Fuck yeah, dude. That's huge.
That was a Storyville, and Mimi Fox, Andrea Haverback, and Barbara something on drums. Barbara wasn't happening as far as I was concerned, but I called the band 3 Chicks and a Bitch, because I was the bitch. And I had a couple of different, 2 or 3 different configurations of that band, because there's a lot of really good musicians that happen to be women. And so we're playing the set in Storyville, and the dining area is pretty dark, and the lights are kind of bright on the stage. So unless you're really paying attention, you can't really see anybody's face. And Alvin, being the skin tone he was, it's hard to see anyway. So I saw him. He came in with Don. I saw him come in, sit down. He and Keiko and Don sat down and ate dinner while we played the set. And I knew he was there the whole time, but I'm thinking, oh man, I wish there was somebody. I was playing with somebody else right now. But then I said, well, it's not going to be anybody's fault if I sound like crap, but mine, no matter who I'm playing with. So after the set was over, they had gotten up and gone out. So I went up to the green room after the set, and there was Elvin and Don and Keiko. So I got a big hug from Elvin, and we sat down and burned one. And then when the girls found out that Elvin was there, one at a time they would come in, and they almost fall down shaking. They were so freaked out about it. And we're sitting there laughing our asses off, talking, having a good time. And anyway, I mean, I understood that they would be in awe. I was too, but I was going to enjoy it. I wasn't going to mess it up with, you know, being all nervous and stuff. But later on, one of them asked, "Did I act like an idiot?" Because they were just there for a second, said hello, and turned around and walked out.
He probably loved it.
And yeah, but Elvin was super. I mean, just really nice, and laughing and grabbing my hand and pulling me close to him and looking at me deep in my eyes and just then laughing his ass off again. It was quite an experience.
Yeah, that fucking.
Yeah.
Mine was much.
You met him too, didn't you?
Yes, and he played in San Francisco at this like huge Coliseum arena show. I don't remember what it was. It was gigantic.
Oh, yeah, with Joe's quartet.
Oh, it was huge. I do remember him getting pissed at somebody a couple times, one of the horn players, and yelling at him on stage between songs. Brian Melvin took me.
Yeah.
My drum teacher, the house drummer at Storyville, and afterward, and I had no idea this was going to happen. He goes, "Come on, let's go meet him." I'm like, "What?" So everyone's packing out of the arena, and he drags me to the stage. He goes up on the stage first, talks to somebody, and he goes, "All right, come on." And he drags me on. I'm like, I'm 16 with long blonde hair. And I'm coming in. Carlos Santana, by the way, is backstage right over here. I don't even give a shit about him. I'm not even looking over there. I'm seeing Elvin Jones in front of me in a gigantic double-breasted white, huge coat to this tuxedo, all white tuxedo, sweating profusely. Dark black, like melted like a raisin because he's so old at this point. And I come up to him and he's just looking around meeting everybody. He's sort of just in a daze because he just got off this concert. And he's meeting all these people. And then Brian Melvin goes, "Hey, Mr. Jones, this is Chazz. He's a young drummer." And he just looks at me, grabs me by both shoulders and shakes me and goes, "Ah!" And I'm just like, "Mr. Jones, Mr. Jones." And it was amazing.
Yeah. That's interesting. We both got to meet him. I would love to have played with him.
Hell yeah! I think he died very shortly after that concert.
Not too long after that. I don't remember, to tell you the truth. Hell, I don't remember when I met him, what year it was. Unless I really think about it, it had to be the mid '90s.
Man, you show me. I remember you showing me some old footage, like Blue Note footage, of him playing with. I think it's Mingus. I'm not.
That's Miles.
Somebody he's playing with. I can't remember, but everybody else in the band tapped out. They got lost, and it was just Elvin and the other guy playing together, and they just gave up on the rest of the band. The other rest of the band just gave up.
That was a Coltrane.
Coltrane. Just fucking. They were so outside, but still together. The other guys just tapped out. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah, they didn't need to be around.
All right. So how about music these days? Let's talk about a little bit of about the music you've had going on lately. McConnell's music.
McConnell's music. We teach and produce, and Julie and I, my wife Julie and I, just did a CD, our second CD. I think it came out this year. I believe we recorded it last year. We'll have a link for that for sure. We'll go ahead and plug where you can find that. It's the where is the studio? Because the production is beautiful. Oh, it's just go on to mcconnellsmusic.com and you can hear tracks and you can see where to purchase if you want, or download some tracks from the CDs. There's one with myself and Dottie Dodgen and Jackie Coon, just bass, drums, and flugelhorn and vocals. That's really old. That's an older one. And so you can check out what we're doing, what's going on. We're living in the mountains of Western North Carolina, up near Asheville, and I'll tell you what, there's a lot of music going on up here. Apparently there's over 80 venues for live music. There's and just in this area. And let's see, I just recorded a CD with Bill Gearhart, which is just in the rough mix stages, and working with Michael Jeffrey Stevens on some stuff. And next year I'm going to be recording my music. Yeah.
Excellent. And you know where you're recording now? Are you going to go back to the same studio? Because that just sounds great.
Probably. I'm not sure yet. It's the only studio I've checked out around here. It is good. It's a good studio, but I'm not sure yet. It might not. I might need something bigger with more isolation, or something bigger. I can just do a live sound.
Awesome.
And,
you have players picked out, or are you still on
no,
the search?
that's the biggest thing. Searching, finding some right. I think I got to keep a piano player that can do it. It's just a horn player.
I think I know too who that is, but we'll talk later.
Yeah, but yeah. So
awesome, and we're gonna be playing some stuff. In fact, we'll just give you guys a track. We're gonna this went by really quickly. This is a good episode. We have like so many other stories.
Barely touched the surface.
Exactly. So, but you can help me with this. It's a new podcast, and you can probably help me if you ever, as you're just chilling at home, and think about an old story, jot it on and post it, and then for the next episode, we'll have some artillery. But for a minute, let's just give everybody a song from a song of your choice from your recent the McConnell's music album. And why don't you go ahead and set it up? Which song that you're gonna of your choice?
Okay. Well, there's one song that we recorded at the same time that you gotta. I think you have it downloaded. Weird Nightmares, and that's going to actually be on my CD, so that might be a good one for coming attractions.
Weird nightmare, you haunt my every dream. Weird nightmare, tell me what your scheme. Can it be that you're a part of a lonely, broken heart? Nightmare, why must you torment me? Weird nightmare, pain and misery in a heart that's loved and lost. Take away this grief you've caused. Can't sleep at night, twisted and fright, with the fear that I'll leave it all again in my dreams. You're there to haunt me when you say he doesn't want me. I've been hurt. Do you know what that means? Weird nightmare, take away this dream you born. Weird nightmare, mend a heart that's torn and has paid the price of love 1,000-fold. Bring me a love with a heart of gold. Weird nightmare.
Well, yeah, one thing I'd like everybody to hear a little taste of is one recording I did of a composition that I wrote or notated, as James Moody would say, to Mingus, and it's Too Mingus, also Mingus. Anyway, I wrote
I
this
never knew
tune.
that.
Yeah, I wrote this tune. It's not a tune; it's composition. John Handy said if it's longer than 3 minutes, it's a composition. It's not just a song. So,
Right.
um, yeah, so I'm playing a gig once again with John Handy, and it's the year that Triumph of the Underdog came out. It was a documentary about Charles Mingus again, another one, and Sue Mingus and Diane Mingus and all the family were there for the debut of it,
Wow.
the opening night, and we were playing at the Coconut Grove on Van Ness in San Francisco.
I remember this
Um,
story. I know what's going to
yeah,
happen. Yeah, go ahead.
and so John said we're going to play a couple of Mingus tunes, and there was going to be another bass player there. So we ended up,
Yeah,
but I'd never played a Mingus tune with John before. He always played his music or standards.
got it.
And he said, "Well, which one do you want to play?" I said, "Well, Haitian Fight Song, of course."
Of course.
So in my intro to Mingus, I was stating certain motifs or ideas from Mingus's opening to Haitian Fight Song,
Mhm.
and as an homage to him.
I bet you got some looks like, oh shit, this white boy he knows what's
Well,
going on.
well, there was me. I can't remember the other bass player's name was Miles. I can't remember his last name, but
Mhm.
we had one microphone. We didn't have and only one amp and one cord, so we decided to stand facing one another with this microphone between our bridges of our basses. So
Mhm.
we started playing this intro, like call and answer thing, and we just kept going and kept going. It's getting more. I wish I had a recording of that. And it got to the point where we were playing on each other's bass. We were like reaching across and slapping at each other's basses. It was, and our bridges were like banging into the microphones, almost like a spar. And
Yeah,
John Andy's looking at us like, "Come on, get out of there! We got to play this song," because we kept going on and on and on. It was insane. So
that's
yeah,
amazing, man.
so when you listen to my intro, which is actually to the decibel or to the actual time, it's 5 minutes exactly. And I did no timing was on my mind when I recorded it or performed it. It was a live recording.
That's amazing, man. That must have been such a gratifying night.
Oh
That's
yeah, oh
huge.
yeah, that's right. And I sat down and talked with him, and this song "To Mingus," I started telling him about it. And I was so excited to be there and talking to these people. I started singing the tune to them, and they were tripping out.
Nice.
So yeah,
I love it, man. They probably loved it.
they seemed to be charmed. I thought it was charming, I guess.
All right. Well,
But
you
I
know,
was serious.
everybody can hear this stuff. McConnellsmusic.com, right?
Yep.
And I'm sure there's all the updates of their upcoming performances and concerts with Julie and Bryan McConnell. Julie is extremely talented vocalist and front woman for the band. And yeah, please check out their album and as well as the new one that you got coming out.
Yeah, it's going to be called. The title of that one's going to. The
it?
title of that one's going to be Heavy Wood.
That's heavy wood. For my whole life, I've been showing my dad heavy metal since I've discovered it from my friends, and
Well, I showed you Led Zeppelin.
Oh, that's right. That story has already been told on the podcast. By the way,
and Robin Trower.
Robin Trower. Speaking of, this will perfectly segue into the end of the episode, as we always do reviews for an album. So this pick I gave to Dad here. He wanted to recommend to everybody Robin Trower, the album Bridge of Science.
The sun don't shine, the moon don't move, the time's too much weekly. Sun don't shine, the moon don't move, the tide's too much weekly. Why so unforgiving, and why so cold? Been a long time crossing Bridge of Sighs.
Why don't you go first, actually, as our guest and
Well,
respect others?
yeah, it's the music. It's this music of my teens,
Right.
And I was playing the classics at school, but listening to Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Iron Butterfly, Robin Trower, Hendrix, and all the heavy stuff, as well as acoustic stuff. I mean, to me, music was music, but it's just part of it's nostalgia. But when I listen to it again years later as an adult, it's there's a reason I liked it then, not just because it was loud. It grooves like nobody's business, and it tells a story. This particular record does tell a story. Like good songs or music should tell a story one way or the other.
Absolutely. And so you guys had this in your cycle with all the greats, and it actually it was off our radar in my generation. I never knew about it until you showed it to us, and it really caught my attention because I felt like, okay, especially track 1 on Bridge of Signs, it feels like, okay, this seems like a lost track from a Hendrix album when you hear the singer who's the bass player also. Whitest guy you'll ever see. I think he's even from Scotland or some shit.
He's not white, he's black.
No, man, that guy's white as hell, and he sounds black. Yes, he's from like Ireland, or he's dead now or something. That's tragically.
I have to look that up. He must be one of them black Scottish guys.
Oh my God, he's got the most soulful voice I have ever heard. Huge fan of this guy's vocals, and
oh yeah,
track I even do a cover of because it's I think it's like track 2 on About to Begin. It just hit the right chord with me, and it doesn't do too much. Robin Trower is actually the guitarist, not the vocalist. Right. And his singing is outstanding, but really it sounds like these guys should have been touring with Hendrix, but Hendrix might have been worried they would upstage them.
No, I think this is a little more. This is not as, I don't want to use the word loose.
I feel like it's kind of Pink Floyd meets Hendrix.
Yeah, it's a little more. It's not
psychedelic.
Quite as. Yeah, that's the word.
Absolutely.
It's not quite as psychedelic, although it is.
It is. Yeah, they're outstanding, especially that album. If you haven't heard those guys, definitely check them out. Bands like Opeth, I could tell you, and Porcupine Tree, stuff that my generation's into, they know this album, Bridge of Signs. I guarantee goddamn to you. So,
oh, that's right. He had a big afro. That's what it was. He was the bass player.
Oh, did you Google him?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, Bridge of Signs, that's an awesome one. That makes me want to show you that.
It's actually Bridge of Size.
Oh, I thought it was Bridge of Signs. See, I'm a fucking idiot.
No, it's all right. It's easy to mistake. Bridge of Size, yeah.
Well, you so that's something I need to show you, Dad, is the album Opeth Damnation, and specifically that one. And I think you'll hear what I mean, how Robin Trower actually crawled into the heads of all our heroes. So it's good stuff. And this was good stuff, Dad. Really, I appreciate this. Was totally insightful and blast from the past.
Well, I'm sure everyone sense.
Oh yeah, it's great. And we'll have you back. You know, we'll get some more stories going on. And thanks for telling us some stories.
Oh, you got it, son. Love you.
All right. Love you too. Hey, love you all out there in podcast land. Thanks for hanging tight and waiting for new episodes. We're going to do another 10 episodes here at least before we move on to season 3, whatever that's going to be. So, hey.
Straight ahead.
You got it. Quarter notes. All right, guys. Late.